You all know the Grinch, the holiday villain redeemed by the spirit of community. But he has one of the most complex character evolutions in the 20th century children's literature. You might recognize him as the lime green, pot-bellied creation of the 1966 animated special. But the character's true origins are more obscure and darker, rooted in Dr. Seuss's mid-century disillusionment, his vitriolic political cartoons, and a series of proto-Grinch figures that appeared in obscure publications years prior to the 1957 classic. The Grinch wasn't created suddenly in December 1957. The character is the final version of a type that Dr. Seuss had been developing for years, a creature that is grouchy, greedy, and unable to feel normal joy. Now, that might remind you of somebody. This is the dark history of the Grinch. Let's get spooky. Hey, spooky people, it's your best friend Kenny, and we are back with another disturbing story. Before we get to today's story, make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. Make sure that you like, share, and comment on this video for the algorithm. Hit the hype button. Thank you. The word Grinch first appeared in the 1953 book Scrambled Eggs Super, 4 years before the famous Christmas story. In this book, the Grinch is a beagle-beaked Grinch, a sour bird that is hunted for its eggs. The bird Grinch is just a victim, but its sour description and appearance, frowning, bald, already share traits with the later villain. The first Grinch established the visual and emotional style that was before the original drawings of the 1957 Grinch. An earlier version of the Grinch appeared in a May 1955 Red Book poem called The Hoobub and the Grinch. This version shows that Grinch's origins aren't as somebody who hates buying things, but as a manipulator who sells things. In the poem, the Grinch is a furry swindler who tricks a creature named the Hoobub. The Hoobub is happy, enjoying free warmth of the sun. Using aggressive sales techniques, the Grinch persuades the Hoobub that a simple piece of green string is far better than the sun. He claims the sun's only good in a couple short seasons, but this wonderful piece of green string I have here is strong, my good friend, every month of the year. The early Grinch was a scammer who tricked a Hoobub into trading his enjoyment of nature for a useless object, for 98 cents. Of course, this price point satirizes psychological retail pricing also, right? It wasn't $1, it was 98 cents. In earlier illustrations, this Grinch was yellow, cat-like, and slick, not green or miserable. The 1955 Grinch used materialism to harm others. The 1957 Christmas Grinch hated materialism. Dr. Seuss used the name Grinch for anyone who opposes natural joy. Dr. Seuss's own unhappiness, age, and 1950s society influenced Grinch's change from a swindling salesman to a Christmas villain. Writing the book was a way for Dr. Seuss to deal with his personal problems. Dr. Seuss wrote How the Grinch Stole Christmas in 1957. The idea came to him on December 26, 1956, when he saw his own Grinchish reflection in the mirror. Dr. Seuss was around 53 at the time, and the Grinch in the story complains about putting up the Christmas tree for 53 years. Dr. Seuss admitted the Grinch was a self-portrait of his own midlife fatigue and resentment towards the commercialism of Christmas. He even had Grinch vanity license plates, seeing the character as his nasty anti-Christmas alter ego. The story is, in a way, confession of Dr. Seuss learning to accept the holiday that he has come to dislike. Now, I don't understand disliking Christmas, but that's just me. Dr. Seuss wrestled with this alter ego while his domestic life was deteriorating in a way that casts a long, tragic shadow over the Grinch's creation. Dr. Seuss's wife, Palmer Geyser, was suffering from declining health. By the mid to late 1950s, she was battling the debilitating effects of Guillain-Barré syndrome, a rare autoimmune disorder where the immune system attacks the nerves. The symptoms included partial paralysis, severe pain, and a loss of bodily autonomy. As Dr. Seuss sat at his desk writing about a character whose heart was 2 sizes too small, his wife was in the next room, her world shrinking due to her illness. The atmosphere of the Dr. Seuss household during the writing of How the Grinch Stole Christmas was likely one of quiet suffering and medical anxiety. The Grinch's isolation at Mount Crumpet, which was away from the warmth and celebration of the Who's, mirrors the isolation imposed by chronic illness. And Helen wasn't just a passive observer of Dr. Seuss's career. She was his primary editor and creative partner. She was known to retrieve his discarded drafts from the trash, seeing value where he saw failure. It's disturbing to consider that the woman helping to refine a story about the growth of a heart and the restoration of joy within was trapped in a failing body. While at the end of the story, the Grinch finds redemption, the Dr. Seuss household did not find a happy ending. Helen would self-unalive, leaving a note that referenced her spiral going down, 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 and her feeling of being overworked and overwrought. She did this while Dr. Seuss was beginning an affair with Audrey Diamond. This tragedy represents the roots of the domestic alienation, the darkness of the Dr. Seuss house that was present during the Grinch's creation, or may have been a metaphor for Dr. Seuss's grim reality of his home life. Dr. Seuss wrote the majority of the manuscript quickly, in a few weeks, channeling his frustration with ease. The villainy came naturally to him. However, the ending plagued him for 3 months. He was terrified of the story becoming a cheesy religious story. Dr. Seuss struggled because he needed a redemption that wasn't divine intervention and wasn't just sentimental slush. He would admit that I had gone through thousands of religious choices, implying that early lost mental drafts might have featured the Who's praying, or an angel appearing, or a direct reference to the Nativity. Dr. Seuss got rid of these. The final solution for Dr. Seuss was the Grinch carving a roast beast, a humanist moment. The redemption comes through fellowship with other people, not faith. The Grinch is saved because he sees that the Who's do not need things to be happy, nor do they need God to save them from theft. They save themselves through each other. This struggle highlights Dr. Seuss's intent to create a modern mythology, one that replaced angels with Who's and the scripture with shared meals and moments of community. A misconception about the Grinch is his color. While we all know the Grinch as green, his origins were colorless, save for the fact that he had pinkish red eyes. In the original Random House publication of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the illustrations are rendered in Dr. Seuss's post-war pen and ink style, utilizing a restricted color palette of black, white, and red. The Grinch is white. He's uncolored, represented only by black lines on the white page. This gives him a ghostly quality. The Grinch has pink eyes, specifically red ink used in the iris and pupil area. The pink and red for the Grinch's eyes in the otherwise black and white figure gives him a demonic appearance. It suggests inflammation, sleeplessness, or an inherent wrongness in his biology. It makes sense given the story's description of his sour nature. He looks like a creature whose eyes are irritated by the very sight of joy. The story was published simultaneously in Red Book magazine in December 1957. This version is important in Grinch history because it featured different coloring than the book. The magazine version used more background colors. Despite the extra color, the Grinch remained largely white and black, emphasizing his otherness. He did not turn green. The fact that he was colorless suggests that Dr. Seuss viewed Grinch as a void, a lack of color in a colorful world. It wasn't until the 1966 animated special that Chuck Jones, who directed the Looney Tunes cartoons, decided to paint the Grinch green. The green color didn't come from Dr. Seuss. Jones claimed the inspiration for the specific shade of lime green came from a rental car he drove that was an ugly shade that he hated. The color was chosen to evoke nausea and unpleasantness. In the 1966 cartoon, the Grinch's eyes are yellow-red when he is evil. Jones animated a subtle change. The Grinch's eyes turn blue after his heart grows. The original book offers no physical beautification. He remains the pink-eyed recluse, redeemed by action, not by any changes to his look. This shift in the cartoon softens the darkness of the original. In the book, the Grinch is still an ugly pink-eyed monster, even though he's accepted by the Who's. In the cartoon, he becomes somewhat physically pleasing, getting blue eyes as a reward for his goodness. The 1955 poem, The Hoobub and the Grinch, serves as a draft for the Grinch's personality. In this poem, the Grinch is chatty, persuasive, and verbose, traits that were dialed back for the stoic, brooding figure of the 1957 book. The 1957 Grinch isn't a carnival barker or a used car salesman. He's more of a brooding villain. The darkness increased as the character evolved from a swindler to a terrorist of joy. The 1955 Grinch wanted your money. The 1957 Grinch wanted misery. The full original manuscript drafts of The Grinch Who Stole Christmas are not publicly available in their entirety, but biographers have suggested that Dr. Seuss struggled to keep the tone from becoming too bleak or preachy. For example, the famous song You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, with lyrics like your soul is an appalling dump heap, and you have all the tender sweetness of a seasick crocodile, was written for the 1966 special, not the book. However, these lyrics were written by Dr. Seuss himself for the show. They show the unfiltered vitriol that Dr. Seuss felt towards and with the character. Insults he likely held back from the children's book, but unleashed in the adult-oriented television primetime special. The cartoon describes the Grinch's soul as full of gunk. This visceral, gross-out imagery was a precursor to the 2000 Jim Carrey film, but it was absent from the 1957 book. It's also important to consider Dr. Seuss's broader political and social worldview. He is a reflection of Dr. Seuss's wartime propaganda work. Between 1941 and 1943, Dr. Seuss drew over 400 political cartoons for the leftist newspaper PM, urging American intervention in World War II and attacking fascism. Critics and historians have noted a striking resemblance between the Grinch and Dr. Seuss caricatures of Adolf Hitler and other fascists. Both were depicted with scowling faces, isolationist tendencies, and a desire to destroy the joy and the freedom of others. Dr. Seuss often drew Hitler with a V-shaped frown and a hunched posture. The Grinch has this same shape and posture. The Grinch's desire to stop a cultural event he disagrees with echoes the authoritarian impulse Dr. Seuss spent years satirizing. The Grinch acts as a dictator of Whoville's calendar, attempting to impose his will on everyone. He doesn't just ignore Christmas, he actively invades the homes of the people to strip them of their presents. This is a totalitarian act. It's also been suggested that the conflict between the Who's and the Grinch was inspired by the mistreatment of German immigrants in Springfield, Massachusetts during World War I. Dr. Seuss was taunted for his German heritage as a child. From this perspective, the Grinch is an ostracized German American living on the hill looking down at the Who's. His hatred of the noisy celebrations stems from his exclusion and his eventual inclusion into the celebration with the carving of the roast beast represents the assimilation into the American fabric. It suggests that the Grinch might not necessarily be evil, he's just a victim of xenophobia, and he is lashing out. The modern psychiatric analysis of The Grinch Who Stole Christmas suggests the Grinch exhibits classic symptoms of major depressive disorder and social isolation rather than simple villainy. He's irritable, hypersensitive to noise. He has social withdrawal and an inability to feel joy. The heart 2 sizes too small is a metaphor for a lack of empathy or emotional stunting, possibly caused by trauma or prolonged isolation. Grinch's transformation is not just moral, but psychological. It's a breakthrough in the Grinch finding emotional regulation. The Grinch developing an idea to steal happiness can be seen as a projection of his own internal misery onto the external world. The idea here is that the Grinch suffers from mental illness, and he suffers it alone in a cold cave while the town below ignores him until he forces them to acknowledge his existence. The 1966 special introduced horror elements that were not included in the book. For example, the Grinch's smile. The animation of the Grinch's smile, which slowly extends from ear to ear, defying normal anatomy, is an example of grotesque animation. It makes the Grinch look predatory in a way that pictures in books can't. The Grinch was voiced by Boris Karloff, who was an actor famous for playing Frankenstein's monster. Karloff's voice brought a gravelly, horror-tinged weight to the cartoon. The 2000 film starring Jim Carrey took the dark origins literally. It added a backstory involving childhood bullying, where the Grinch was mocked for having a beard at age 8. The film also included sexual innuendos like key parties in Whoville, what the hell, and gross out humor like eating glass and garbage. This darkened the tone of the movie significantly. At the time, critics thought that the movie was too dark and that the style of camera work and camera shots created a sense of unease. This version made the Grinch's trauma explicit. He wasn't just born with a small heart. He was broken by the cruelty of the Who's. This is showing Grinch as a victim. It's ironic because Dr. Seuss used to draw ads, so he understood consumer psychology. He wrote The Grinch Who Stole Christmas as a way to attack the commercialization of Christmas, but created one of the most marketable Christmas figures in history. The Grinch is now the face of the very commercialism he detested. He appears on ornaments, wrapping paper, movies, and toys. The modern Grinch sells the idea of anti-consumerism for the price of a movie ticket or a hardcover book or a stuffed Grinch. And I think Dr. Seuss recognized this. The success of How the Grinch Stole Christmas inextricably bound Dr. Seuss to the commercialization of Christmas. These dark origins of the Grinch are not found in ancient folklore or demonic legends, but they're found in the bathroom mirror of a 53-year-old man in California on December 26th, 1956. The Grinch is an example of Dr. Seuss's life. It's the political aspects and a remnant of his anti-fascist cartoons. The personal, a manifestation of his midlife fatigue, his age, and the somber reality of his wife's chronic illness. And the commercial, a reaction against the materialism that he saw consuming his culture and his own career in advertising. The original Grinch, the white, pink-eyed, sour-hearted recluse, was a far more personal and darker figure than the neon green plush toy that we see today. He was a symbol of the struggle to find authentic connection in a world of noise. His redemption was Dr. Seuss's hope for himself, that despite cynicism, aging, and all of the commercial noise, he could still find a seat at the table and carve the roast beast. The Grinch is the monster in the mirror, but he is also the hope that the monster can be loved. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Make sure that you like, share, and comment on this video for the algorithm. Follow me on Blue Sky, Twitter, and TikTok. My username is The Spooky Lawyer. If there is a disturbing story you'd like me to cover, leave a comment and tell me about it, or send me an email. My email address is thespookyLawyer@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the channel, you can send me a donation. There is a link in the description of this video and in my bio to buy me a coffee, so you can buy me a coffee, or you can become a member of this channel. For the $1.99 tier, you can get access to exclusive content, including exclusive videos, as well as early access to my videos before they go public. I appreciate you considering this. You can also support me by liking and continuing to watch my videos. And I do appreciate you watching my videos. And please stay spooky.